Joining us now, former Republican presidential candidate, Dr. Ben Carson. Dr. Carson, good to see you.
You too.
As you see the race relations once again appear to reach a fever pitch in this country, whenever we see an incident like this, which actually is statistically very rare, but gets a lot of attention from the media, what are your thoughts?
Well, obviously it's very concerning because if this continues to go in the wrong way, it could lead to some very chaotic situations in our country, and I'm very concerned about that. And you'll notice a pattern here. Usually you have some protests the first night after something like this. By the time the second night rolls around, it becomes violent because by that time the sharks have smelt the blood in the water. And the outside agitators have had an opportunity to get there. And the third night, it can be even worse unless you have brought in the adequate backup. This is a big problem, but, there are things that can be learned. For instance, in the case in North Carolina, why not release the tape? Maybe it's not definitive, but why have everybody speculating and attributing the worst possible motives to everyone?
Dr. Carson, just want to stand you by, because what we're seeing here is the protesters confronting some National Guardsmen here on the steps of what facility, I cannot tell you. But we saw this last night with respect to law enforcement, where they got in the face of the cops. Steve Harrigan is there. Ben Carson, stand by, stay with me. Steve Harrigan, what are we seeing?
We're seeing a crowd of about 400 converge on the courthouse here, trying to make their way up the stairs. A line of police quickly forming at the doors to try and block them. We have not seen any violence yet, but we have seen flashpoints like this where things could get out of hand. The crowd has been chanting, "No justice, no peace." But so far, the large show of force by police has kept things quiet. We've seen bike police, National Guard, armed and armored Humvees, and we've seen really a lot of protesters get right in the face of police, but also groups trying to get between the protesters and the police. A lot of clergymen, a lot of community activists trying to prevent anything from happening, and it looks like this flashpoint has been diffused for now, Megan.
Steve, thank you. Dr. Carson, back to you for a moment. You see, it's pretty remarkable because this, at its core, is about race and race relations in the country. And you see the African-American guardsmen standing there on the courthouse steps as African-American protesters express their outrage over another death of an African-American person on the streets. And as somebody who grew up in a rough and tumble neighborhood and had a difficult upbringing and got himself out to become one of the most famous neurosurgeons, pediatric neurosurgeons in the world, what message do you have for those who say, I'm afraid for my life because I have black skin?
Okay. Well, the level of frustration is obviously extremely high. It was high when I was a kid also, and people ascribed all kinds of bad attributes to those who they felt were the oppressors. And in many cases, those attributes were appropriately ascribed. But, I was taught, my mother taught me, my religion taught me that the person who has the most to do with what happens to you is you. It's not somebody else. And you don't have to concentrate on them and allow them to control your life. You can do it much better if you control your own life. So that's the message that I would give to people. And that doesn't mean that I don't understand the frustration. But the problem is, if you are always acting out of frustration, do you really think that that's going to solve the problem? I mean, what are the choices that the police have? They can either come down with an even heavier hand, that's not going to be good, or they can have such a light hand that, criminals run wild. That's not going to be good either. So let's think about this rationally. What do we want to do? Start getting together and talking and getting to know each other and coming up with rational solutions, not destroying property and destroying other people's lives. That's not going to help. There's no way that that's going to lead to an appropriate solution. So there's problems on both sides. Both sides have to be able to try to put themselves in the position of the other side and think about it from their point of view. And then this other thing I need to say, the police, I believe, should be taught non-lethal methods. For instance, in that case in Oklahoma, I know they tried the stun gun. maybe that didn't work, but you need to know what the next level of non-lethal force is before he even reaches the car. Why not teach them these things?
Dr. Carson, good to see you. Thank you.
You too, Megan. Thank you.